Hello, my name is Anthony Paganelli. I am the WKU Elizabethtown Fort Knox librarian, and this is a research instruction tutorial to help you with your research and find information and help you write your research paper. First of all, we begin with a research topic. Some of you may already have a research topic, but if you don't, some ways to kind of think about a research topic is to think about what questions that need to be answered, or what kind of interest do you have? And this would be ways to help you find a research topic. I have, for an example, why do college students struggle to graduate? So this is my question I want to find an answer to. Now, before I go any further, I'd like to go ahead and take a moment to just go ahead and write down some key words for my research question, such as college students persistence or retention, higher education, since I want to focus primarily on college students, student affairs, and academic affairs. These are just some key words to help me find information as when we go to look at the databases. We'll use these particular keywords to help us find the information. And plus, the information will help you find out more about why do college students struggle to graduate. Okay, before we find our information, we need to make sure that the sources that we get are academic. And there are a few ways that we can look at our sources to make sure that this is going to be academic sources for our research. And if you look on the left hand, you'll see the difference between a scholarly and popular source. Scholarly articles sources seem to there are articles from journals or books from experts. And this is our next thing, written by experts. These are experts in the field who specifically do research on specific titles and topics and research. They have a tendency to be longer, anywhere between 10 plus pages. Some can be up to 40, 50 pages. They're usually typically hard to read. In other words, it's more academic rather than just for the general public. These are also known as academic, peer-reviewed, or empirical. These are some of these names that you probably have already become familiar with because this is something that your instructor or professor is recommending that you use. The popular sources are going to be magazines, newspapers, most websites, especially our .com websites. They're going to be written by anyone, primarily if we get them from a magazine or newspaper, those are going to be written by journalists. They're not exactly experts in a specific field. They're more experts in how to write these articles for these type of magazines. And they're usually based on opinion, mainly because uh, whoever this magazine may be specifically geared to one type of industry or a specific topic. They have a tendency to be shorter and easier to read. They're also known as mass media or popular press. Um, Also, if you're unclear about what the source is, you can always look at over here on the right hand side currency, relevant, authority, accuracy, purpose. This is an acronym for primarily what we would say CRAP. So when we look at currency, we're looking at is it current? Current meaning most recent. That means it's probably going to have the most up-to-date information, but not necessarily has to be the most current article. For instance, if you're doing something on a historical research, well, then you may need something from the specific time period. Um, Next is relevant. Relevant is how does it pertain to your research topic? Is it relevant to the field? Is it going to, make an impact? Then authority. Well, that's something that we just looked at. Who is the author? Who's this person writing it? Do they have a background in a specific field, or are they just journalists, or are they just probably enthusiasts about something? Accuracy. Accuracy is going to come in when we have the peer reviewed, because the peer reviewed is basically if someone writes an article, they will submit it to their peers, and those peers in that field will look over it to make sure that the information is accurate. Unlike into a popular newspaper or magazine where it's just kind of an editorial editor who just kind of looks through it and says, okay, it looks good, and sends it out. It doesn't really check for accuracy so much. They rely on the journalist to make sure that it's accurate. And the purpose. So the purpose for academic is more of what they can contribute to the research field. Whereas the purpose of a popular magazine is more, their purpose is to sell the magazine. I have here an example of what we might say is a academic source versus a popular source. And if you notice on the left hand side, this is our scholarly source. You notice the title is pretty lengthy and it's more, academic sounding and more than some kind of headline to try and get your attention. It says the impact of self-beliefs on post-secondary transitions, the moderating effects of institutional selectivity. So that's the title of it. This comes from a higher education journal. The author here is Diane Elliott, and you can see her credentials down here that she is um, a graduate of New York University, and that's where she works. We could also probably look up her background to see what, where else she is in the field of study. You can also see the abstract. It kind of tells you about what this article is about, gives you an introduction. So this is kind of about how a layout of an academic article is. Now, if we look over to the right, we'll see the popular source, USA Today, which we, figure is kind of like a credible source, which is could be. That depends on whether your instructor accepts it or not. But immediately we can see that the title is just trying to catch you. Students who go to college full time are more likely to graduate. So they're trying to get your attention with these kind of headlines. It's not really talking about the research. If you also notice, there's a lot of advertisement on here. We've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, we've got Universal Studios, things like that. And we got images and pictures, which not so much you're going to see in an academic journal. So these are just quick ways to kind of understand the difference between the two. So to begin your search for information, and we would start at the WKU library webpage, and this is what it looks like. We have what's called a One Search Library Catalog field. And that's there in the center, so you can put in your keywords that we had just looked at, like I could put in college retention or college persistence, and then click search, and it would come up with some information. This is also a place where you can also renew items. Let's say you checked out some books. You need to renew them instead of coming up to the library and renewing them. You can actually go ahead and go to your account, type in your net ID and password, and then you can just renew everything. This is also a place where if you're not on campus hooked up to our network, if you're like at home, this is also like when you have an opportunity to go ahead, like if you go into databases and you start to search, it's going to send you to the off-campus login. Again, just put in your net ID and password. So from the WKU library webpage, you can click database, which is underneath the OneSearch library catalog field. And this is where you'll get into more stuff because the library catalog search is pretty much stuff that we have in our catalog, such as books and online. And that's one way you can get information. But in general, most students who start their kind of research will use what we call Academic Search Complete or an EBSCO database. We have numerous databases. So as you can see here, it says 246 databases found. If you know a specific database, well, then you can search through it alphabetically. Some of the other more popular ones are going to be EBSCO, ProQuest, LexisNexis Academic. But most of the students who just start their search are going to use Academic Search Complete. So when you click Academic Search Complete, it's going to come up with several options to choose from. This is at the point where I kind of want to explain what the Boolean search technique is. If you notice here, we have 3 search fields, which you can add more, but it's usually set up for 3. So I'm going to search up student persistence or retention because it could be either or. And I want to make sure that it is just college, so I can say not primary or elementary school. So that what this is going to do, student persistence and retention, that's going to expand my search. And it's going to exclude primary school and elementary schools by selecting not. So this is the way these kind of search engines are set up in these databases. So we can go ahead and click. And what has happened here is we have came up with, if you look, at 165,604 results. That's quite a bit for us to go through, even in our lifetime. It would be way too much time. So what we can do is what we would call filter your search results. So if you look over here on the left-hand side, we have several options. A lot of students want to go ahead and do full text. What that means is when you select full text, it's only going to pull up results that have full text. If you don't do it, it's going to pull up articles, but it may only have like an introduction, a summary of what that article is, and we may not have it in our database. If that's the case, you can still do what we call interlibrary loan, which I'll discuss later. And so to further, filter your results, you can go to scholarly, peer-reviewed journals. That's exactly what your instructor or professor wants you to do. Another way to narrow this search down is to do what's publication date. Let's say you need anything from just 5 to 10 years. That's really going to narrow your search down. And you can go ahead and look down the side here on the left. There's many different ways. You can just say, I just want academic journals, or I can go by subject major heading, subject, or from publications. So there's many ways to just go through there and filter that out. Okay, so just to kind of demonstrate, once you've narrowed and filtered your search down, now we're going to kind of look at how to get the article and look at it. So I've kind of scrolled and went ahead and filtered it out. And so I see understanding retention in U.S. graduate programs by student nationality. This is graduate programs, so it's not undergraduate studies. However, I want to go ahead and see kind of like what the graduate programs may be doing. That may be something I could use to help with undergraduates. So in this case, I'm just kind of looking, and if you notice, it says underneath the title, it has the author's name and then the journal name, which is the Studies in Higher Education. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. So if I want to go ahead and view the text, I'm going to click PDF full text. Sometimes they may say HTML with full text, but either way, it will take you to it. So here's my article, and as you can see, I can scroll through here. Now I want to go ahead and show you there's several options that you can use here. You can use the folder. You can add this article to a folder because you may go back through and find more articles. You keep putting it in your folder. However, when you're done searching, be sure to take whatever's in that folder and save it to a flash drive, save it to your desktop, or email it to yourself, because once you close out, you'll lose that. It doesn't save it. You can also, if you look here, we can print. Right here, you can download it to like a flash drive, desktop. And you can also cite it. Now I'm showing you the citation tool that they have because sometimes it's not always accurate. In this case, it seems to be, accurate on this one. But like if you're doing APA, make sure that it is accurate, because sometimes these things just aren't. Okay. So now that you found your article, you can save it, download it, print it, or save it to a folder so you can get some more. But I just kind of wanted to show you what it kind of looks like. These are what the academic articles are going to look like. As you can tell, this has tables in it. It's going to talk about, expectations, climates, all kinds of other issues that they're using here for their research. So that's just one way to look at the EBSCO database and how it kind of works. My suggestion is you guys just tinker with it until you can kind of figure it out. Again, these things don't exactly like your keyword search. It's not always easy to navigate. This is not like Google where you just put in a phrase. Your keywords are going to be important to you. So bear that in mind. And if you ever have any problems, please let me know.